everyone! My name is Evie Lupine. Welcome back to my channel, and today I have another video for you all. Today we are following up on a previous video that I did talking about brats in the BDSM community. And if you didn't catch that one, basically what we talked about is how brats can be seen in the world of BDSM, how we can help destigmatize them, and how bratting can be part of a healthy, consensual BDSM relationship, but it can also be used in unhealthy, non-consensual ways. And reading through the comment section on that video was fascinating because on my end, I would get one comment that would say one thing, and then a minute later get a comment that said the exact opposite. So for example, I would have someone say first, "Oh, brats are so popular in my community. I love getting to watch brats. All of the bratting scenes I have seen at dungeons have been really fun and a joy to watch. There is no bias against them here whatsoever. They run the local munch, they run the dungeon, they run the parties, and actually it is more weird here if you don't brat as a bottom." Then literally 30 seconds later, I would get a different comment that would be like, "Everyone here hates brats. I am a brat myself, and it is such a struggle to get recognized, and I have dominants tell me that I'm not really a submissive. Other submissives, other bottoms don't want to be around me because they don't want to be like guilted by association. It's really, really hard to be accepted for who I am and what I want in a relationship, and I just wish people would give me a chance." And I thought that one was just really interesting, and I wanted to bring it up really quickly just to put it out there. But even between all of those comments, there was a completely unexpected line of thought I kept hearing, and that would be the concept of a bratty top or dom. And this is something that I've thought in my head a time or two before, and I underestimated you all, obviously, because I thought I was alone in thinking about this, and I had probably at least like a half dozen of you all talking about the concept of being a bratty dom or a bratty top in the comments. Is it possible? Do people do it? If it is something that happens, do we call it bratting, or is it its own thing? Like, what's the deal with that? And my answer to this might be a little bit of a surprise if you have watched my other recent videos on like pleasure doms or gentle doms or what have you. But I actually think that being a bratty top or being a bratty dom is a real thing. And to prove it, I have a story for you all. So I have a friend that identifies as a dominant. They've never bottomed, as far as I know, a day in their life. They have no interest in bottoming or submission whatsoever. They're the kind of person, when they are in a good mood and, you know, you're friendly with them and they know you and all that, they joke like 80 to 90% of the time when they're in a good spirit. You know, they just really, really like teasing. That's how they bond with people. That's how they show that they are close with you and get you. That is just what they like to do. Like, they love to get a rise out of people. They love seeing people's reactions, and it's all in good fun, right? They try not to push it too far, but they like joking and carrying on, and that was just how they were raised. That's how they talked and communicated with their siblings, and that carried over into their adult relationships. And there was one night I was hanging out with them, and it was just like wall-to-wall antics. They were just joking constantly. They were like poking and pushing and prodding and laughing and carrying on. And I was like, "You know what? You're kind of being a brat right now." And they were like, "Me, a brat? No. They were kind of joking back saying that, but they were like, "I'm not a brat. Come on, what are you talking about?" And then 2 minutes later, they said something bratty again, and I pointed it out, and they were like, "Oh, shit, you might be right. I might actually be a brat." And I know this is more about somebody's personality and how they interact and how they show friendship with people than like some kind of consensual negotiated BDSM thing, but I do believe that this kind of approach is used in a lot of the ways that dominants and tops interact with their partners. When I was doing research for this video, one of the common things that I saw over and over and over again was that a lot of people said the best way to be a brat tamer is to be the bigger brat. Maybe you cohabitate with a partner and they go to work and you make lunches for both of you. And maybe every day when they come home, those vegetables are left uneaten. And they do it on purpose. They're doing it because they know that it drives you nuts when they don't eat their vegetables. Well, you know how you act like the bigger brat in that scenario? Only vegetables. Guess what? Congratulations. Your lunch is now only vegetables. Please enjoy. You have achieved exactly what you wanted. Or maybe it's about the fact that your partner likes to talk back to you. And maybe they called you stupid head. Well, guess who gets to be Stupid Head Jr. or Mrs. Stupid Head for the rest of the week now? Again, congratulations. You played yourself, you got exactly what you wanted, didn't you? And that kind of back and forth, I think, is really common. However, I think we should also evaluate here, are the motivations for someone who is bratting as a dominant or top, is that the same as people who brat as bottoms or submissives? I do think there are cases where when you are doing an activity on either side of the slash, the motivations can be similar. I think a good example of that is with service. It can be about caring and providing for people, and that tends to be something that people like to do across the board. However, I don't think that's the case when it comes to brats, and here's why. Because as a refresher, with bratting, one of the ways that I see it is a way to basically be reassured of the boundaries of the relationship. Be reassured that your partner is active and invested in the relationship, that they are there, that they have the ability and the power to have control over you and direct you in the correct direction, that you can be reassured if you act out, that you will be corrected and put on the right path instead of abandoned. It can also be a way to process your own submission, that when you act out and something happens, it's because of something you did, right? I'm getting this spanking because I rolled my eyes. This caning is because I talked back at the dinner table. And having that logic and that reason for why you're doing something in BDSM can make submission easier to process for people versus having to admit to themselves that they like being hurt because it feels good in a really direct fashion. Some people just like being able to mess around and push at buttons and know their partner is still there for them even when they do that. And it's really this delicate interplay of motivations and actions that's done in a consensual relationship that ultimately is going to be rewarding, fulfilling, happy for both people involved. However, when it comes to the dominant side of the equation, I don't really see the motivations as coming from that same place. One of the first examples that comes to mind for me would be the giggling sadist. And it's really about going back to that enjoyment of reaction and pushing at people's buttons. So let's give an example here with the giggling sadist. You might be someone that is a hardcore masochist, and you go to your friend that you know is kind of bratty and likes to joke, and you say, I would love to do a flogging with you. And you talk about it, you decide, okay, we're gonna do a flogging, Friday night party, let's go, it's gonna be a fun time, right? And they get you all blindfolded, you go to the cross, you get in position, you're like, yes, oh my gosh, I'm so excited for this flogging. And then, when they finally start the scene, what you feel is a really light tap. It's very warm and soft and fuzzy. This isn't a flogging, what is this? It's the bunny fur flogger. And you go, ugh, I wanted a real flogging, what is this bullshit? And they're like, oh, this isn't a flogger? We're doing a flogging right now. Are you calling me a liar? Is this not a flogger to you? I mean, You didn't say I couldn't use the bunny for a flogger. You just said you wanted a flogging in general. You didn't give me any particulars, and I mean, I wouldn't want to go too hard and push your limits, right? And that kind of jokey back and forth and giving you what you want but not in the way you expected it is exactly what this giggling sadist type of bratty top or dom is all about. They are basically like a sentient monkey spa in a human form, and so you need to be really careful playing with people like this because, again, they're gonna give you what you ask for, but not in the way you were probably thinking about it in your head. And so that can be a lot of fun to play around with. It can be fun to negotiate with that. You got to be aware of it going into it. Of course, always, I should be very clear here. Assume that all this playing around I'm talking about is negotiated, consensual. The people involved know that's going to happen. Now, one of the things here that overlaps a lot with the giggling sadist type of bratty top or dom would be what I like to call the teaser. And with the teaser, there is again that motivation of seeing people's reaction, getting a rise out of people, and just loving that. However, with the teaser, it's not about what they do to people, it's about what they don't do. So there's a story that I read when I was researching for this video of someone that loved to do this kind of bratty topping with their partner. So they had their submissive all ready for a scene. They had them go lay down on the bed, totally nude and ready for everything that they had discussed previously. And then getting ready as the top or as the dom, they very slowly took off all of their clothes. They folded everything really neatly, put it in a pile off to the side. They had to check the whole room, make sure the mood was right, get out the candles, check out all the different playlists, get just the right playlist, just the perfect song to start things off with. And then of course, you got to make sure the room temperature is okay. You got to make sure you got the lube and the condoms and the blankets, the aftercare stuff. Got to make sure that's all right there as well. And you know what? You have a glass of water, but you really should get two so that way you both can have a glass of water. And you can see where this is going, right? Just really stretching out that anticipation stage. And by the end of it, the bottom, the submissive, is just squirming on the bed going, oh my God, when is this going to start? Please just hit me already. And that is exactly what they both wanted. They were both there knowing that teasing and anticipation was going to be part of the scene. And this is something where actually it can be a really good way to reinforce the relative power level in the dynamic, because it's a reminder that though there is an egalitarian negotiation, it is the dom and the top that has the power and authority to decide when the scene starts. Not doing it because the submissive or the bottom is demanding that it start. So hopefully you can see that this is not just about being a prick for the sake of it. It's about giving a reminder of who's in control in the scene. It's kind of almost like a sort of tease and denial where you don't actually lay any fingers on them. A sort of temporal edging versus a corporeal edging, if you will. And it's important to keep in mind that there are so many different ways and styles of approaching topping and dominance. Yes, people like this do tend to be more joking and teasing and silly and fun. They tend to be more irreverent. They don't really have patience for things like protocol. They just want to get there and like mess around, they're there to have fun and be silly and just do what they want, not worry about some sort of like community standard of how serious you should be treating BDSM. And for some people that can be really annoying, and for other people, they love it. They just get to let loose and be free and be silly and not take everything so seriously. But getting back to the subject of teasing for a moment here. Teasing, of course, can also take on a very physical form. Maybe as the dominant, they're giving wet willies to their partner when they forget a rule, or they just start randomly licking an ear or blowing a raspberry on someone during the middle of an otherwise tender and intimate scene. And this kind of, I think purposeful, childish behavior, that can work really, really well with a CGL or an age play based dynamic, because many people do expect that the caregiver or big role in those relationships is going to be a nanny or a mommy or a daddy, but there's no reason why they couldn't also be a cousin or an older sibling that loves torturing the younger ones in the family that just happen to be left in charge. And that can be really fun to play around with. I also did a video recently where I talked about dominant littles. And in that, one of the archetypes is a princess little, where they totally have their lowercase d daddy partner completely wrapped around their finger. And I don't think there's any reason why you couldn't have a relationship where that princess is also a brat, because isn't that exactly the kind of personality that in real life we would call being bratty? Isn't that where this term kind of comes from? So I think it totally lends itself to that. Now, this is not to say that any kind of physical teasing, physical top brattiness is inherently related to CGL or age play. That's totally not the case. I just think they happen to fit together pretty well. I could also see this working out really well with like rope bondage, primal play, pet play, things of that nature as well, where you do have a little bit more of a physical interaction in a lot of the different scenes that you might be doing. I could also see this working really well for people that have a large sexual component to their scenes or to their DS relationship. But keep in mind, this whole bratty top thing is not defined basically at all. I'm more or less kind of making this stuff up as I'm talking in this video. It can be whatever you want it to be. It can be everything I described here. It can be totally different. And I would love to hear if you guys do have different ways of being a bratty top or being a bratty dom. If you want to share that, please put that down below, because I would love to hear all of your ideas. I do want to add though, I think this kind of behavior is more common than we typically give it credit for, because I think we're really reluctant to call a dominant, to call a top a brat, because the term brat is so strongly connected in the BDSM community to a very particular type of submissive or bottom. And so instead, we might say they're being silly, or they like to joke, or they like to tease. And so we kind of call them everything except a brat, even when if you described what they were doing to an outside party, they might call what's going on here a brat. And I also have heard from people that do have this style to their dominants, they prefer to have terms like being called a tyrant or being called a smartass instead. And I think that is a wonderful way of labeling it, because if you have ever gone to a dungeon at least once, you have probably heard someone shout out that their dominant or their top is being an asshole, a meanie, rude, evil, a dick, a prick, a whatever. You have probably heard those labels, and they can definitely vouch that that kind of title can be pretty accurate for a lot of people. So I would just say again, this isn't really a concrete thing. I am not trying to say that this is like a label. I'm sure now that I've said this, there's going to be at least like a little bit of a trend somewhere online of people being like, I'm a bratty top, I'm a smartass top, because as we have seen over the last couple of years, I think we are getting more and more interested as a community in giving more particular terms to someone's style of dominance. I think the rise of things like soft dom, gentle femdom, pleasure dom, I think all of that really shows that we like having more specificity, at least for some people, in the way we describe dominance and topping. And maybe bratty top or smartass dom or tyrant dom is going to be the next biggest trend. I don't know, it's a possibility. I'm not saying it's going to happen for sure, but it might be out there. I don't want to manifest it necessarily, but it might be a thing that happens. So all that being said, that is all I have to say today about the concept, the topic of being a bratty top or dom. I would love to hear from you all down below in a comment what you think about this term. Is this something that you have seen? Do you have a bratty top or dom in your life? Are you a bratty top or dom? Again, I would love to hear everything you all have to say about this in a comment down below. I think this is such an interesting topic, especially because I do think it is such a new concept that we are really getting into for kind of the first time. So very exciting stuff. If you want to make sure to not miss out on any of my other videos, please do subscribe, because I make videos twice a week about all sorts of kink and BDSM related things. And finally, if you want to support what I do, the best way you can do that is with Patreon. A link to that will be down below. If you do already support me there, thank you so much. It means the absolute world to me. And until I see you next time, I hope you have a great rest of your day and a great rest of your week. Bye-bye.